Hello, it's time to talk about Theresa May and her place in history. That I want to actually. It's pretty grim, but I'm filming this a couple of days after Theresa May's announcement of her resignation. It does seem a very protracted resignation. May the 24th, she says, standing down as Prime Minister and Tory leader. What I'm really going to do is on June the 7th, I'm going to stand down. But then I'm going to stay on as a caretaker leader at the end of July. And they find, well, which time it's expected the Conservative Party leadership election will have found a new leader. Now, a few weeks ago, Britain got a 6 month extension on Brexit to the end of October. And Donald Tusk, on behalf of the EU, said use the time wisely. So since then, we've had May going on about she's going to try just one more time with her plan with slight few tweaks to get a deal through Parliament, and then she finally accepted the inevitable. That's not going to work. Now we've got a couple of months of waiting for the Tories to come up with a new plan. It's not going to work, is it? So in a way, it's quite an interesting coincidence, to me at least, if to nobody else. This is my book, British History. It first came out in 2008. I bought a updated edition in 2018, and then recently I've done a mini update to cover events in 2019. Now, literally 3 days before to rise, literally 3 days before Theresa May's announcement on Friday. So I thought I would, because the last few pages looks at our Brexit, our contemporary political issues and how they match, or how they're part of the developing history of Britain. So I thought, well, yes, obviously I'm going to have to update the book again quite soon if I want to keep up to date with the fast-moving Brexit shambles. But it just, I was getting quite annoyed, irritated, frustrated, whatever you were, on Friday. As various media commentators talked about Theresa May, and there was a lot of stuff about, oh, she tried really hard to she was great, weird determination. She believed in what she was doing. She tried really hard, and then she was really tearful at the end, and we should feel some sort of sympathy for her. And no, I don't feel any sympathy for Theresa May. I just can't see. When you look at her record, and I know it's easy for people to say, oh, this was, she was the worst Prime Minister since David Cameron, or in my lifetime, or for a century, or ever, and people make these snap judgments, but I would genuinely say, someone who is very interested in political history and has written quite a bit about it, I genuinely believe she is one of Britain's worst Prime Ministers ever. She's been Prime Minister for just under 3 years, and I really cannot see what she's achieved. Nothing good, and quite a lot bad. She came to be Prime Minister. She talked about burning injustices. Most of these burning injustices were basically, a lot of them were created or made a lot worse when Cameron was Prime Minister and she was in the Cabinet as Home Secretary. We've seen cuts to public services. One academic study about 18 months ago actually concluded that the real terms cuts to health and social care spending had actually led to an increase in the death rate in Britain. It's ridiculous. In the 21st century, the death rate's going up. It was actually concluded that 120,000 people died prematurely between 2010 and 2017 because of government policy. One of the authors of it actually called it economic murder. We have seen the amount of disabled people who have died despite being found within a short time of being found, fit for work under the ridiculous sort of attack the benefits culture that we've seen from the Tories. We saw Grenfell, we saw Windrush. There's just been so many scandals, and then Brexit. So Brexit was the only. Theresa May's mission was to carry Brexit. Now, I've been reliably informed because I know someone who knows someone who knows that. Basically, I've been told, and I do genuinely believe that this is true because I've been reliably informed by somebody who knows. Theresa May had long been a secret Brexiteer. She was a Remainer during the EU referendum because she, along with Cameron and most of the government, thought the vote was going to be for Remain. Cameron pledged, if people vote to leave, we will deliver on this. He also, I mean, that gets talked about all the time. What doesn't get mentioned so much is he was actually questioned during the referendum campaign, and what will actually happen? How will this happen? And he was asked, "Will you invoke Article 50 promptly?" He'd said before he would, and he said, "Well, let's have the details." And someone said to him, asked him, "There's a European Council meeting coming up literally days after the referendum. If Britain votes to leave, will you invoke Article 50 at that point?" He sort of hesitated, and he said yes. So at that point, the Conservatives had a majority government. They believed all this stuff about, oh yes, let's take control of our borders, our laws, our money, let's have £350 million for the NHS and all the other stuff that they pledged but never actually believed they were going to deliver, didn't even care about. Could have invoked Article 50 at that point, and we would have left the European Union in June 2018, nearly a year ago. But instead of that, the rot set in. So here's my book, British History, and just thought I won't sort of read the whole sorry tale, but basically the last 3 pages of the book looks at what's happened since the referendum, and then contrast the sorry, I'm actually quite annoying, a lot of this. It contrasts the real narrow-mindedness and small-mindedness of the Brexit project with some of the finer things that we can be proud of in Britain. So I thought, I know we all know a lot about this, but I mean, we had May's attempt in 2017. She called a snap election. She wanted like a personal mandate to carry Brexit. All that happened, she lost the Conservative Party's majority. They stitched together a corrupt deal with the DUP, Protestant bigots, with links to loyalist terrorism, completely contrary to the principles of the Good Friday Agreement, which had brought us 20 years of peace in Northern Ireland. So May and the government spent absolutely ages trying to negotiate amongst themselves and with Europe about what actually this Brexit deal would be. David Davis, the Brexit Secretary, Boris Johnson, as Foreign Secretary, both resigned from the Cabinet in July 2018. It wasn't until November that an outline deal was agreed with the European Union. That prompted the resignation of Dominic Raab, who'd been Brexit Secretary for our 4 months. Recently in December, the long-awaited meaningful vote on the deal was due to happen. May pulled it because she knew she would lose. The government refused to disclose the legal advice on the deal, even though a motion of Parliament said they had to. A second motion found the government ministers to be in contempt of Parliament. They then reluctantly issued the advice, but no ministers resigned. Nobody was dismissed. There was no acknowledgement of this serious rebuke of the government. So then we move into 2019. So eventually in January, the deal gets put before Parliament. May loses by 230 votes, the biggest ever defeat of the British government in Parliament. Now, back in December, sorry, I'm backtracking a bit. Back in December, had been a vote of no confidence in May as Conservative Party leader amongst Conservative MPs. She survived that only by saying, well, I'll step down before the next general election. Still, a third of the Conservative MPs wanted her to go straight away. After the parliamentary defeat in January, there was a vote of no confidence in Parliament, which May narrowly avoided being defeated, but only with the support of the DUP. The deal got brought back in March, defeated by 149 votes. It came back again at the end of March. She got the vote. There was a little bit of Tory loyalty. She got the scale of defeat down to 58 votes. Despite May had said, I mean, it's on record that she told Parliament over 100 times that we will be leaving on the 29th of March. That didn't happen. There was a short extension by a couple of weeks, and then May was basically, through pressure in Parliament, May was forced to accept another extension, which was basically the options were either leave April without a deal or have an extension to October. So May reluctantly agreed that. Then she carried on, as I said earlier in this piece, she carried on talking about her deal and fine-tuning it, but nothing happened. There was talks with the Labour front bench, but the government refused to be flexible. So we've reached a point now where May's about to slowly depart, and we have basically, it looks like everything's on hold again for a couple of months. Now, I mean, I personally voted to leave the EU. I voted to leave the EU because I'm a left-wing socialist, a member of the Labour Party. I disagree with the idea of the EU as a multinational neoliberal capitalist organisation. I believe we in Britain should have the right to run our own economy in the way that we want, and we should have public services and government support for our economy. I am an internationalist. I do want good relations with the rest of Europe and with the rest of the world. I just don't see that the EU is the way to deliver this. I do think when you look at the appalling way in recent years that the EU treated Greece, the way it treated attempted separatism in Catalonia, I just do not see the EU as a force for progress. I have been very sympathetic. I do think that they were very patient with May and her very confused approach to things. I do have sympathies for them. I do think that they have been trying to come to a good, trying to come to some sort of reasonable deal that will benefit both Europe and Britain. But May and her government have just totally failed to achieve any of this. So what I would say is, I voted to leave the European Union from a left-wing perspective. It's known as Lexit. Brexit, there is a very xenophobic and borderline racist element, and quite a big element in the Brexit project. It's let's all hark back to the great days of the empire when Britannia ruled the waves, and Britain was a great power in the world. There is too many people who think we can go back to that. We can't. We're a small nation. We are one of the strongest economies in the world, but we're not as strong as we used to be. We need to work with our partners. We cannot be little Englanders. We can't think that we're better than everybody else. Fortunately, now, as I say, there's a lot of xenophobia and racism. We look at the Windrush scandal, and we look at the hostile environment against illegal immigration under the Tories, which has basically become a hostile environment against all immigrants, even people, as we saw in Windrush, people who've been here 50 years or more, people being deported because they haven't got the documentation to prove that they're legally and legitimately here, people being denied healthcare because they can't provide documentation from decades ago that nobody else will be expected to provide. So this, one of the themes of my book is that Britain has always been influenced by other nations. Quite often they've arrived as conquerors, whether it be Romans, Anglo-Saxons, the Vikings, the Normans, or perhaps in more recent times, say the Dutch element of the so-called Glorious Revolution in 1688. We do best as a nation, Britain, when we assimilate culture and ideas from other countries, from other nations, and there is a very proud tradition in Britain, and I do see that in recent decades the immigration of large numbers of people from the Commonwealth who were who were welcomed here before the hostile environment. Even I would say I've got no problem with immigration. I do feel that the large-scale immigration from the rest of the European Union, especially as it's increased the number of states over the last 20 years, that has brought a great deal of economic benefit and cultural diversity to Britain. There is a lot we can be very proud of in our country, but I would say that when the history of this era is written by others other than a snap judgment from myself, I do have to say I just cannot see that Theresa May has achieved anything. I mean, I challenge people, what has she achieved? And I don't hear any answers apart from I talk to people. Oh yeah, well she's achieving Brexit. She's trying to achieve Brexit. People are standing in her way. It's more difficult than people realise. I really cannot see that she's achieved anything good for our country in the last 3 years. So, and it is a country with a great past and a great future. And I may come back another day to talk more about that, but that's where I am at the moment. So thank you for watching and listening, and I hope this has been of some interest.